Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a perfectly adequate show for you in store today. That's my opinion of it. What about you, Niall?
Giving it the hard sell, Robby. I'm glad to say
sell.
You can't just resist any kind of advertising like
Maybe
that.
it's reverse psychology. It makes people more interested in the content we're about to deliver.
They'll be impressed by our authenticity, given
Yes.
that we're not overhyping it.
Exactly.
Well, let's get to always a highlight. Robby's radar. What is on your radar?
Okay, well, Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump's nominee to be Secretary of Defense, faced his confirmation hearings yesterday. The senators grilled him on his past statements about women serving in combat roles, how to eliminate sexual abuse in the military, whether DEI and wokeness are undermining fighting effectiveness, and other subjects. Now, some Democrats asked questions that I thought were perfectly reasonable. For instance, while I'm no fan of Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, I thought it was perfectly valid for her to ask Hegseth whether he would pledge not to work for the defense industry for 10 years after serving as Secretary of Defense, given that he has criticized the revolving door permitting ex-generals to subsequently work for defense contractors. Perfectly fine question. But not all of the Democratic questions were on point. Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia bizarrely focused on Hegseth's infidelity during his marriages and having conceived a child outside of wedlock. Watch this.
Return to the incident that you referenced a minute ago that occurred in Monterey, California in October 2017. At that time, you were still married to your second wife, correct?
I believe so.
And you had just fathered a child by a woman who would later become your third wife, correct?
Senator, I was falsely charged, fully investigated, and completely cleared.
So you think you were completely cleared because you committed no crime. That's your definition of cleared? You had just fathered a child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I am shocked that you would stand here and say you're completely cleared. Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before, and you tell us you are completely cleared?
Senator,
how is that a complete clear?
Senator, her child's name is Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth, and she's a child of God, and she's 7 years old.
And she was, and you cheated on the mother of that child less than 2 months after that daughter was born, didn't you?
Those were false charges.
Well,
it was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared. And I am so grateful for the marriage I have to this amazing woman behind me.
You've admitted that you had sex at that hotel in October 2017. You said it was consensual, isn't that correct?
What is this, the marriage police? Look, it's one thing to ask about the sexual misconduct allegations, which, as Hegseth notes, never led to charges. It's quite another to focus on the sordid, salacious details of Hegseth's marriages, which had nothing to do with crime or assault or violence. Really, if you think about it for even a minute, there's a level of shocking hypocrisy on display here. Tim Kaine was the running mate of Hillary Clinton, the wife of former President Bill Clinton. Kaine was happy to embrace Bill Clinton on the campaign trail. He certainly didn't avoid or disparage his running mate's husband, even though Bill Clinton was credibly accused of infidelity with a White House intern, Monica Lewinsky, and also accused of sexual assault by Juanita Broaddrick. For years and years and years, many elected Democrats, not all, but many of them, criticized the Republican obsession with prying into Bill Clinton's personal sexual behavior. I don't know for certain what Tim Kaine thinks about it, but he obviously didn't think Bill Clinton's affairs with a White House intern meant that Bill Clinton should be exiled from public life. Tim Kaine campaigned to put Bill Clinton back in the White House as first gentleman. Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin was having none of it and assailed Tim Kaine for this line of questioning.
And then Senator Kaine, or I guess I better use the senator from Virginia, starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No. But it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke. I mean, it is so ridiculous that you guys hold yourself as this higher standard and you forget you got a big plank in your eye.
Well, look, my only question about that monologue there is if a senator is routinely showing up drunk to vote for bills, that senator should in fact resign or be voted out of office. Though if the senators, the Senate body at large, regularly inebriated, it might actually go a long way toward explaining the chamber's economic priorities. They certainly spend, to borrow a saying, like drunken sailors. Now, in any event, I expect that Pete Hegseth will in fact be confirmed. So what did you make of some of these questions, Niall? I really was shocked and appalled by what I heard from Tim Kaine personally.
I'm not sure if I was shocked and appalled, but I did find it a fairly extraneous line of questioning and a prurient line of questioning to focus on the topic of infidelity. Now, as you pointed out in your radar, it is important to keep, I think, disentangled the allegations of infidelity versus the allegation of sexual assault, which no charges were pressed upon, but which Pete Hegseth settled a lawsuit paying some form of money to the woman who had accused him of that. He says he did that to protect his television career, and we always underscore innocent until proven guilty here. I don't really care overly much whether adults are faithful to their spouse or not, at least when it comes to qualifying them for a job or disqualifying them for a job. And I took the Kaine line of questioning to be just an attempt to kind of cause personal embarrassment. I think that's what it was about. I'm actually glad you raised the topic of Bill Clinton, because I have had many heated conversations over the years with people whose broader views I respect, who seem to extend a lot of leeway to Bill Clinton for his behavior. And there I'm thinking even less of the Monica Lewinsky case, even though there was a vast disparity of power there. But you raised Juanita Broaddrick. And I mean, it is just a fact that the allegation of rape made by Juanita Broaddrick against Bill Clinton is a credible allegation. People try to claim it's not because I think she, having been somewhat apolitical, has sort of moved to the right over the years.
Yeah. But
the allegation, I mean, Christopher Hitchens, when he was alive, wrote, and I think the book was called No One Left to Lie To, went into this in some depth about the Juanita Broaddrick allegation, which is a plausible allegation. I've issues with Hegseth, which are unrelated to this, which I'll get to in a minute, but what's your overall?
Yeah, no, exactly. Bill Clinton remains in good standing. It still campaigns on behalf of Democrats, and he was this close to being back in the White House, having treated a White House employee, Monica Lewinsky, in the way that he did. And you're absolutely right. That case gets overly focused on, where, again, it is not to me disqualifying to serve in public life, to have had a messy relationship or anything of that nature. I was, as I just said, just appalled by Tim Kaine harping on that and focusing on that in what I thought was a very indecent way. But thank you for pointing out the Juanita Broaddrick stuff is very serious. It is very well. There's a lot of solid reporting and evidence behind to I think persuade even a skeptical person that there's a high degree of likelihood that it did take place pretty much exactly along the lines she did say. Now she's discredited in the eyes of many people because she's such a right-wing pro-Trump figure that that doesn't you could go through the experience she went through and come out on that side because of your interactions with the Clintons over the years.
Just on the point of Hegseth specifically, where I have the bigger problem, and this gets to the point of hypocrisy to a degree, Pete Hegseth's experience to run an organization the size of the Pentagon is very, very modest indeed. It is essentially being involved with two fairly small organizations, and in his role in those organizations, there have been various complaints of sort of mismanagement and excessive drinking and all of that. The excessive drinking at functions, I don't know if that's disqualifying, but my point is we're talking about confirming a guy to run an organization that has almost 3 million employees. Its budget is close to $900 million a year. I think if Democrats nominated someone with that resume to be the Secretary of Defense in a Democratic administration, there would be a lot of shouting from Republicans about the lack of experience.
Well, sure. I think that's a perfectly valid thing to question him about. I hear that. The problem I have with that is if it's only the case that you need someone with a kind of long career of working in this exact kind of position or overseeing people from managing a complicated bureaucracy, et cetera, then you're going to tend to draw on the same pool of very beltway establishment thinkers, people who have a lot of defense industry expertise, people who have worked for defense contractors, people who all have an ideology that I think, and you probably do as well, have some serious criticisms about how this lends itself toward global safety and security. You're not going to get an iconoclastic outside perspective if you're saying, well, you have to have experience running a large multinational company or organization, then you're going to get the same kind of, you're more likely to get the same kind of internationalist interventionist perspective that so many in the MAGA base don't want to see a continuation of those policies.
Well, I think that is true if you say you can only recruit people from the defense establishment. And I did make a point on another network about this idea about experience in foreign policy or in defense. And my argument would be, well, a lot of the people experienced in those areas made in decisions that are now considered catastrophic,
yes,
you know, and
exactly.
going back to the George W. Bush administration. What I was talking about in Hegseth's case was more managerial experience than defense or foreign policy experience, because to go from having been essentially a TV commentator with some, what would effectively be sort of small non-profit or small company managerial experience to running the Pentagon, that's a big leap, you know. And frankly, I think if Democrats nominated someone with that resume who was either a woman or a non-white person, there'd be all sorts of hoils about DEI hires and so on and so forth.
Well, I saw Republican Senator Joni Ernst this morning, I think, indicate that she would vote to confirm Hegseth. So it looks to me like there's not going to be any Republican defections, and I think he's going to sail through, and I predict all of them get confirmed at this point. Thank you for your thoughts, Niall. We've got a lot more to talk about today on Rising. Please stay with us.